writers, agents, and publishers, for the first time since the Gutenberg Press, find themselves lost in a maze of mystery as technology alters the shape of the publishing industry. Searching for Answers is a group of writers throwing pop culture, writing, and publishing into a crucible of clarity, passion, and humor. This group is the Right Pack. Welcome back to Right Pack Radio. This is your host and producer, David Allen Lucas, author of Crazy Things, president of St. Louis Writers Guild, president of Winding Trails Media. And today we're going to continue on to the previous topic. So let's go around the table again. We have some minor changes, and then we'll pick up and talk about what we're talking about.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Kayembe. I write fantasy and spec fic, and I write romance under the pen name Kaseka and Vita. I have a story out in Nightmare Magazine right now, and you can find me on Twitter.
Okay.
My name is Chanel A. Chan. I write. I write.
She writes.
I like
That makes you a writer.
That's good.
There we go.
Yes.
I like it.
Yay! Brad?
I wish I thought of that. I'm Brad Cook and I write. I am Brad R. Cook. I write steampunk and all kinds of fun things like that. You can check out the Iron Chronicles, or you can check out A Clockwork Heart, or you can check out the Dragon Slayer. And there's a couple more coming down the pipe that you'll be able to get in the next few weeks, probably. So cool. Check them all out at bradarcook.com.
I'm Melanie Lucas. I am hopefully writing a fantasy novel by this point in time.
Sorry, and I'm coughing here. My bad. What?
Fedora Amos. I write Victorian Whodunits like Jack the Ripper in St. Louis and Mayhem at Buffalo Bill's Wild West, which is now out in a large print edition.
Yay.
I'm just proud of that today for some reason. And I am president of Greater St. Louis Mystery and Crime.
And I apologize to everybody. I just swallowed something and went down the wrong pipe.
And I'm George Soroy. I write science fiction for the young adult reader. My books Excelsior, Ever Upward, Part 2 in the Excelsior Journey, and the 5-part serial from Parts Unknown will all be available this summer. I am also an audiobook narrator. My book, my narration of Argentum by Debbie Mamber-Kupfer is currently available on Amazon, as is the audiobook for Rumpel-Pimple by Suzanne DeWitt Hall. And I am also the president of the Missouri Writers Guild.
I like that last title, Rumple Pimple. Interesting.
It's a really cute story. Yeah,
Okay.
it was a lot of fun to do.
And that kind of sound TV-ized or Hollywoodized. In the last episode of Right Pack Radio, now, last episode we talked about how to market your book, both in a bookstore and out of a bookstore. After we finished, the group decided, hey, we need to continue this conversation, so guess what? This is How to Market Your Bookstore Part 2, or How to Market Your Book, not bookstore, book Part 2. And with that, Kathleen, off mic, you had a great question you were going to ask, so we're going to start off with that question. That was about publicity?
Yes, and I'm going to preface the question with why I asked it. One of the things that people are becoming more aware of as a culture, not just in the groups that are directly affected by it and know they are, is people's able-bodiedness and neurotypicalness, for lack of better words. So, for your neurotypical able-bodied person, doing a lot of publicity is something you can more easily juggle with the writing that you need to do with your day job, with your self-care, with your life, than for those of us who are not as able-bodied or not as neurotypical. I am not neurotypical. And some of the things that Brad and Fedora were saying that they do every week for publicity for their work are things that make me exhausted even thinking about it. Like, I was sitting here wondering how they don't clone themselves or use time turners, because I would need that. And also,
Time Turner. Oh, that'd be so helpful.
I would need that. And I would need, like, every turn or two, I would need to go take an 8-hour nap. And by nap, I mean, well, it's still the same day. So I would need to go sleep for 8 hours. So that level of publicity that is so necessary for writers to do now is not possible for someone like me. So what do I do in that situation? What do people like me who just do not have the energy to do all that do so that they can still be writing and still be maintaining a day job? do I need to hire a publicist? How do I go about this?
I would like to just add in, because sometimes even if you do have the energy, you're not necessarily the only person or the best person to do something. I mentioned briefly last time, he's written a book that he thinks that the young adult reader, the 18-year-old, the 15-year-old even would love. But I don't think he's going to do a very good job convincing that 15-year-old or that 16-year-old to read his book. Even if he does all this thing, he would have to get creative and go about it sideways, giving interviews, Twitter, all that. I'm not sure if it would work for him because of who he is and who he's going after audience-wise.
Brad?
Yeah, so to kind of, I'll answer your question in just a second, but first I'd like to throw out that I actually feel the exact same way. So you're looking at me as doing all this amazing publicity work, and yet I still look at the people that are bigger than me, and when I say that, I'm thinking of some of the like really big indie authors or even some of the bigger guys, and I'm amazed at what they do, and they're doing 1,000 times more than I am. So I totally get that sense of like, I can't do what you do notion, or I don't feel like I have that in me, because I also feel that way. I look at some of the things that like Scott Cohen, or even like Neil Gaiman, even though he's not necessarily, I mean, Neil's kind of crazy because he doesn't have to do the major publicity for his book anymore, but he still has to promote and push himself out there in ways. And one of the coolest things he does, I think, is using the illustrations from the artists do of some of his poetry and stuff like that, and he'll put it out on Tumblr and stuff like that. It's just awesome. But to that answer, like, I still feel that way a lot of the times, because I always see that there's more I could be doing or should be doing, or I'm not certain where else I could go with it. But to answer your question, I think all of this boils down to being able to do what you can do best. So if you can't tweet and create, tweets that are going to go viral and all that kind of stuff, like, I'll totally raise my hand on that one. I'm not the best at it. My tweets tend to sound like formal sentences and stuff, which it's not supposed to be. That kind of stuff. Like, find where you work best and then exploit it. If you're really great at writing, sweet. Create content that goes along with your books. Create short stories that go along with your books. Create free stuff that you can then give away. You're like, I don't care about this short story because it's only like 3,000 words long, and it's going to make people want to read my book more. And so you can just keep generating content, as Fedora was saying in the last episode. One of the best ways to sell you what you already have is by generating something new. Because somebody's going to read the new and then go back and find the rest of what you've done. To answer your question, though, about should you get a publicist? I would actually at this point say it's not a bad idea. And the reason why is that the 2 weeks or the month, the 2 weeks before and the 2 weeks after your book launch are so critical to the success of your novel. And so if a publicist can get you on a blog tour or in stores or at certain speaking events and get those lined up beautifully, and they're the ones who's going to make all the phone calls and line all this kind of stuff up for you, that's a wonderful thing, because I'm not going to lie, it's a really difficult thing to do yourself. I don't create giant book tours around St. Louis because I also personally think that I don't want you coming to I don't want to try and get you to come to 30 events. I want you to come to one event. And I'm going to try and sell every book I can at that one event, and then I'll do other things after that and try and push it a little bit there and there. But the ability of a publicist to get you all that kind of stuff lined up in those 2 weeks on either side of your launch is amazing, and that's when a publicist can really pay for themselves. So it's not a bad idea to get a publicist.
George, and then me.
Brad, since you were talking about launches, like one of the things that I always wanted to make sure that I had with me for every signing that I was doing, whether it was a launch or whether it was just like a typical signing after the book was released, is I would make sure that I would have a notebook, like a spiral notebook and everything, sitting on the table, so that way people coming in can write their name and email address down. And that is basically like one of the steps that you would take to create a mailing list. because that is something that is also very critical to success, because these are people that are signing up to hear from you. So that kind of takes the edge off a little bit, because you already know that they want to hear from you. So it's not as much, you're not spamming anyone, thankfully. You're not going that route. Like what you're doing is, like you're collecting information from people that want to give you that information. They want to hear more about what you have going. And you can use an incentive like what Brad was talking about like creating, having a short story kind of set up as a way of saying thank you for signing up.
Yep.
Here's this specific link that's only available to people that sign up for the mailing list. Here is this, like you can go ahead and download this book right away for free. You can get a little taste of my writing, and then all of a sudden, they're hearing more from you from a newsletter.
Yeah.
From like a monthly newsletter. I strongly suggest, if you want to go down the path to a newsletter, monthly is the way to go. You don't want to do it weekly. You'll burn yourself out right away. So, but yeah, like just think, like going in those routes, going in those directions will help kind of take the edge off a little bit, because you're reaching out to people that want to hear from you.
Going back full circle on the question, then I'll go to Fedora next. I'm going to break down your question in a couple ways, if you don't mind, Kathleen, and then I want to answer them as best I can, and I'm probably going to open up other doors as I do. First off, should you get a publicist? My answer to anybody asking that all depends on the following things. One, what's your budget? How much are you willing to spend, or how much of the sales are you willing to give to your publicist for cost-wise? Two, how good are you at being a publicist of yourself? Sometimes and number three is, to borrow what you said, what is your energy level with it? I personally suck at doing across all of the different social medias and trying to keep that up and so forth. There are times in which I will go suddenly silent because I don't have the time or the energy. Previous to this year, right now I've had GatewayCon. It's been a huge lodestone on my time. But previous to that, I was talking off mic with someone else about my previous job, and in which that case, my first holiday of the year was Martin Luther King Day, and the next holiday I had was Thanksgiving. During the time between Martin Luther King Day and say October 1, I was expected to be working 24/7, almost 7 days a week. I had to get through it. I had my reasons for staying at that position, and I enjoyed who I worked with. But when it came to the drain on the time and my energy, if I wanted to focus on my writing, that was just totally nuts. Add to that, blogging, which is sometimes recommended, became as also a way of publicity, as a way to reach out to your audience. I found myself blogging more than I was working on the stories, to the point it was almost exclusive. And that I never did figure out a way to make money on blogging. So I want to say, the answer to your question is you really need to answer three. And then when you do decide to hire a publicist, I'll get the word out correctly, a publicist, do your research. Make sure it's somebody who knows the market or knows how to do it. Fedora? And then...
I want to come up with what George was saying earlier about a newsletter, because the people in the romance category, writers that I know, swear by that more than anything else, and it feeds right into something we were talking about earlier about a street team. That is, if you can get loyal supporters who are going to buy your every book and perhaps your collections or this or that or other, then that is a wonderful thing. And you do it by like adding a name one at a time when you go someplace and speak, and you have somebody who is interested in your stuff, and you gradually grow your email blast list. But don't overburden them. George suggested once a month, and that may even be too much. I have a friend who does it quarterly, and that is keeping in contact with them. And she sort of focuses it around some special event of her child or whatever, that will really connect on an emotional level to her particular fans. And so that it's a matter of connecting with them, not too often, because then you'd turn them off, but often enough that you remind them that you're there and that you have something new coming out that you can pre-sell. So those are the reasons that newsletters are especially popular, especially with romance writers.
Chanel, you got dovetail?
I did. I was going to say, there was a particular author that I would receive newsletters from, and this may just be my particular pet peeve, but like not following the rules that you set up for yourself in your newsletter. Like if you say it's going to be a monthly newsletter, God help you, let it be a monthly newsletter, or quarterly or whatever. Don't have it be like monthly and then you go missing off the face of the earth for 4 months with no explanation. That it may just be me being persnickety, but that's just
Not at all.
Nope, not at all.
like one friend that I knew, she had a few books published, and she had this weekly newsletter. And in this weekly newsletter, she put in new material every week. Yes, she would have a micro short story in that newsletter every week. And then I'm like, and then for a while I stopped hearing from her. I'm like, well, no wonder. She's probably burned herself out doing micro shorts every week. Does she even have time to do anything else for her writing? So even though I know nothing about these things, be realistic, please, with your own expectations and
do what you want to do, what feels comfortable, what feels good to you. Maybe stretch yourself a little bit, but don't make yourself miserable doing whatever it is, blogging or newsletters or don't make yourself miserable or you'll make your readers miserable. Exactly. I do believe that.
Yeah.
To go off, throw David a little under the bus there, even though he says he's horrible at social media, I'm pretty certain you have the highest amount of followers on Facebook of any of us.
I think it is.
I'm not certain of a couple of people's numbers in here. I'm throwing that out.
I'm going to throw out a counter to that. If you look at David Lucas, the author page, the answer would be no.
Oh yeah, but those are author pages. Nobody likes those.
Well, I will say, if you want to talk about friends on Facebook, yeah, okay, I've got a good number. I admit that. There's eclectic.
To keep going on to things that are going to help out people, and Chanel, you are completely right. And in fact, I was actually going to do some like micro writing and all that kind of stuff, and try and pump stuff out on like a weekly, bi-weekly basis. That lasted all of about a week until I was like, there's no way I'm pumping this stuff out that quickly. Unless I'd written it 5 years ago, and it's all ready to roll now. So, realism is a huge thing in this. But actually, I'm going to pull it away. And before I do, Fedora, you were completely right, not just about romance writers. I took the latest marketing course webinar that I took. That was the entire feature, practically, was the email list. And they were doing it for mysteries, and the mystery authors were what I was talking to, or who were giving it, but there was also a whole sci-fi component to that, and they were like, their whole thing was like, the number one thing you can do is create a list. I'm still hesitant to do that. I'm trying to gear myself up towards it. Probably should have already started like 20 years ago, but that's okay. What I was going to go into, though, is ads, which we didn't really touch on much in the last episode, but Facebook ads, and now Amazon ads, and other things of this nature. Twitter, I think you can even start doing ads now. But these are actually really, really good things that you can do. A Facebook ad, though I've mentioned before that not all readers are, on Facebook and everything like that. The way you can tailor an ad on Facebook to aim at certain people with certain keywords, certain regions, the amount of control that you have to set up on a Facebook ad allows you to do a lot of target marketing, which is something that if you're in marketing or all is very important. You want to target the right audience, and Facebook allows you to do that. Amazon ads are going to allow you to place your book in certain places on Amazon's site. So you can hook up into certain areas and you can pay for that spot. So that, so-and-so, or, if you liked this, you might also like some of those spots are going to be open for to put your book in. So these kinds of ads, they don't cost much. Like a Facebook ad is like $60 to run for a couple of days, which when you look at it in comparison, when I went to Tumblr, to run an ad on Tumblr was $100,000.
Well, wow.
100,000?
$100,000
Wow.
on the high end.
Serious.
On the low end, it was like 50 grand. But on the
Oh,
high end,
well, let me get my checkbook then.
well, then here's why. They're not aiming at you. They in no way, shape, or form am I their customer. Their customer is Dell. And their customer is like giant corporation who can actually afford
Simon and Schuster.
Simon and Schuster, the $100 grand to throw off onto a Tumblr ad.
Right.
So and you'll see if you go into the ad sites of these different sites, because Instagram's the same way, where if you want to buy an Instagram ad, it's incredibly expensive. And they do that in part to keep people like us out of those kinds of ads. They want the really high-end stuff, obviously. But Facebook, and now Amazon and a few of the others, you can do them on BookBub, you can do them on different sites and stuff like this. You can buy ads. And in doing so, what you're really doing is, that money you're taking there is now taking that book and shoving it out to thousands of people who would never have seen it if you had not. And you have to know your keywords, because obviously you're going to want to aim at the right people and not have some guy in, something stand, clicking on your stuff, and you're never going to buy your book.
Right.
But
Unless your book is about something stand.
there you go. That's a
It's
possibility.
available over there, that's the track.
But this is a way, and in doing so, your book actually will reach more people, and you will see some bumps off of this kind of stuff. So ads are incredibly important ways. I highly recommend Facebook ads, especially for your launch. Use it for sport. I'm not just going to do it on some random Wednesday because I want to promote my book that week. That's not necessarily the smartest way to do it. But in the weeks leading, in that week leading up to your launch, maybe that's when you push it. Or if you prefer, right at the launch, so that everybody can go right then and click the buy button and just hit it and go. So ads can be a big thing.
Okay, really fast, I'm going to step back, and I'm going to finish with ads, believe it or not. I want to go back to the email, newsletters, and blogging. Blogging is no longer considered the ultimate goal, no ultimate end-all, be-all to get to your readership. It doesn't matter if, and that also sucked away a lot of my energy, as I mentioned before. Blogging or newsletters, this following thing I need to say is what needs to be said about them. If you're going to do them, fantastic. Give your readership something to read. Don't, and I know writers, my fellow writers, I love all of you. I know how it was with me. Don't spend the entire time talking about writing. Then you've narrowed your readership to fellow writers. Most of your readership, unless you are really writing books about writing, is not going to be your fellow writers. It's going to be your Joe Blows, your Jane Does, etc. on the street, but you want to be able to reach out to and say, hey, let's talk about whatever your topic that you like to write about topic is in both your books and in yourself. Going on to ads. One thing you should have if you're going to promote yourself, if you can promote your books, if you can promote yourself, is have a marketing plan. And part of that marketing plan is a social media marketing plan. First off, know where your audience is. As Brad has said earlier, not everybody's on Facebook, thank God. There are other ways to reach. Know where your audience is at. Number two, know how that social media allows them to interact with you. Facebook is great. People leave comments. YouTube, also a great way. People leave comments and they can interact. There are Twitter, they do comments. I don't know about Tumblr well enough, and I don't know about Snapchat at all. I'll admit that. But I will say Instagram, they can leave comments, but it's not that super interaction. Finally, I'm going to say one last thing, and I'm going to turn it over. I've got two people with dovetails. Have you got a dovetail?
Sort of.
Okay. I don't know who to go to next, but anyway, what I'm going to say is expect weird comments when you run an ad.
Oh God.
Winding Trails Media, me, supported a lot of the marketing for GatewayCon. And I put out stuff about agents coming and publishers coming and so forth. And we got some of the weirdest, stalkery, scary, creepy comments back.
Dudes, quit catcalling on the internet. Come
Yes.
on, man.
And it was amazing. It was eye-opening. It was the first time it's not the first time I've done a Facebook ad, but it was the first time I did something to that degree. And it was a great learning experience. So I'm going to warn everybody out there, Facebook ads or whatever ads, expect to have strange things. You'll also expect to have great responses. But no, when you get that creeper, expect it. Okay, since Fedora, you're dovetailing, and then I'm not sure who was next, so I'll let you guys fight over it.
Well, what I want to say is, let us not forget the very essential basics here, and that is, you must have your own website.
Yeah,
If anybody wants to know anything about you, the first thing they're going to do is Google you.
Yep.
Which means you've got to be Googleable, if that's a word. You've got to have your own website. And do it long before you get published, just to make sure that you have something out there and you have a profile and you have some interesting things on your site that people will want to read more about. Second, once you get a book out, make sure that you shepherdize your Amazon page and your Goodreads page. Make sure that you have your profile up there and that you are doing your best to use those two sites to the best of your ability. Don't just let it be. Do something with it.
Maybe even link your blogs.
Oh, absolutely.
to Amazon
There
and all
are
that.
links back to you that you can use, and there are a lot of good things that it will do for you, but only if you work it.
Some of us aren't even Googleable if you try to Google us. Both of my names, my first and last name, are brands. You don't find me on Google at
Yeah.
all.
Well, and I'm kind of glad you brought that up. I'm going to turn this over to George next. Some of the things, and I found this, and so has a friend of ours who has been on this show before, found it, Lauren Miller, has found that someone else is writing with our names. Now, in my case, I discovered this a while back, and it turned out it was some comedian used a pen name, David Lucas. First off, sidebar, whoever you are, really, come on. You couldn't come up with something more original? Anyway, so for me, my pen name, I threw out my middle name. But I would not have known that if I hadn't started trying to create my own website.
And you need, of course, to Google yourself now and then just
Yeah.
to see what's out there.
Just to see what's out there, true. Now, my author website is down and has been down for the last 6-7 odd months. Winding Trails, I need to turn back and redesign it. My personal website will come out again sometime this summer. But I'm also working on it for voice acting too, so I got to figure out how I'm connecting.
Just to chime in just a little bit, kind of dovetailing off of pretty much, what everyone has said. For a while, I had a newsletter that was pretty consistent, going out. Once the consistency dropped off, I decided to take a break from it and just, eventually kind of retool, because I noticed that even though I had, at that point, I had about almost 80 people or so signing that had signed up for it. The same 25 people were the only ones that were actually reading it, and even less were commenting on it. So it just seemed like I was writing into a vacuum, and then just decided to give it a break for a little while. So, but at the same time, I heeded what David was talking about when it came to having material, because yes, I had stuff regarding any appearances that were going on, any books that were coming out, but since I also teach West Coast Swing dancing, that that part was brought up. Since I wrote for a pop culture website, I had archives to old articles, so that was brought up. I had I had my Pinterest page up for a while that was doing basically a casting call for my characters in my books, saying which who do you think would work for this person? I'm thinking it's this person. If you chime in. Always good to make it as interactive as possible. And also when it comes to incorporating all of your elements, like what Fedora was saying, your Amazon page, your Facebook page, Twitter account, like making sure that you have your website as like the main hub for everything, but also making sure that everything is consistent on all the other channels. It's always good to have the same photo of you on all of them, and make sure that it's as professional a photo as humanly possible. Just having a selfie of yourself is not going to cut it. You need something that shows some degree of professionalism in order to grab people's attention.
I'm going to dovetail in real short, then it's going to be Brad, then Chanel. FYI, Winding Trails newsletter hasn't gone out also in months. We had a problem on production of radio plays right now, which I'm still dealing with. We were monthly, and it just became too much trying to deal with everything else. It will be coming back out, but not yet. Brad.
Well, for all of the thing that we're talking about, what we're really talking about is audience interaction.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about interacting with the people who read your books. And that's really what all of this is. You know, to start off with, you're interacting with readers. You don't know if they're going to like your book or not. You know, maybe you're just interacting with the public. But choose how you want to interact. I mean, George was talking about, and David was talking about the ways people can comment on things. And yeah, that's a great thing to have. But is your newsletter really the best place you want people commenting on stuff? Or do you want to start that conversation on Facebook or on Twitter, where now it's not just the 25 people who read it who can see it. Now, you know, the thousands of people who are directly connected to you through all the friends of friends of friends of friends. So, you know, in doing that, you really are trying to figure it out. I always, you know, we're talking about Neil Gaiman a lot throughout these 2 episodes, but that's because this guy's a genius at this stuff. And one of the things I love about Neil is his ability to interact. He interacts with his readers on a level that, God, I hope if I'm ever that big, I can still do. He has a Tumblr that's open to asking questions, and he will answer pretty much every question that comes at him. I don't know how many of them he's actually answering or not, but he answers a ton. You know, on Twitter, he's pretty active about responding back to people who talk to him and stuff like that. Now, yeah, a lot of the times it's other people in the industry that he's firing back and forth with, and then people make comments and things of that nature, but it's still a way of interacting. I don't know how many of you are on Twitter and have Tay Diggs following you. I'm sure a lot of us do.
Yep.
That's something I find amazing. Is that, you know, and when Tay Diggs followed me, I'm not going to lie, I was like, dude, Tay Diggs just followed me. That is the greatest feeling in the world. You know, and stuff like that. And, you know, I also respond in kind in the sense that if you follow me, I follow you back unless you're a Twitter weird bot or something like that. And because of it, I have a huge amount of followers on Twitter and stuff like that that I rarely interact with and stuff like that. And I see all these weird things coming across my feed. And to get away from that and continue to interact with the people I want to interact with, I use lists and stuff. But it's about interacting with your readers. The best way that I can do that is, one, having the content that I give you be the initial conversation that we have. And then I try and respond back to a lot of things on, like, I try and respond to everything on Twitter or Tumblr or those kinds of things. And on Facebook, a little bit less so, because those tend to be my friends, and I'll see you in real life and probably have an actual conversation with you.
Y'all are not my problem.
Yeah, as opposed to doing it all there on Facebooky. So, yeah.
Tell you to your face.
Exactly.
Yeah, I definitely.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was also one of the people who was followed by Tay Diggs, and being a Rent fan, I was just like, Benny followed me. This is
Exactly.
awesome.
Great.
And actually, like one of the most fun times I've ever had on Twitter was actually exchanging Office Space quotes with Dina Meyer.
Oh, there you
From
go.
so it's amazing what you can find on Twitter once you sift through the muck. But also, like when it comes to one of the things you'll also see a lot on Facebook is you'll be tempted as a writer to sign up with all these different writing groups that are out there. There are hundreds of them, catering to every different genre and everything like that. I strongly recommend you be very very careful picking which ones you're going to go to, because 99% of them are specifically a dumping ground for people to just drop their Amazon link and go away.
Yeah.
And that's it. You will go if you've signed up for 10 different writing groups. It's a safe bet that you will have 10 notifications right away, and it will be the same person dropping Amazon links in all 10 of those groups. So definitely pick your spots wisely. You want to make sure you're going to readers, not so much writers.
And on Sunday, that might be Right Pack Radio.
On Sunday, I admit, yes, that's what I do proliferate across 15 groups on Facebook.
But all of them are groups that I enjoy being a part of,
And to be
And
honest,
that
that's
are-
a great way of marketing.
Yeah.
and that are
it's writers.
positive. Yeah.
And of course, I drop them in the writing groups because guess who our audience is?
Well, okay, so I'm going to go in a kind of a different direction. Did you have a
Go for it.
Okay,
Go for
awesome.
it. New
So
direction.
I heard you mention this, and I heard, David, you say something about YouTube. So book trailers.
Yes.
Okay, so is this a new thing that I'm just or have I just literally been with my head stuck in the sand for the past however long of my life?
If you define new,
Reemerging.
as being the 21st century, it's new as of the 21st century, but no, it's not new.
No, that you'll go back even further than
Yeah,
that.
that's true.
There's some really horrible 80s book
That's true.
trailers that are just really horrendously bad, and I recommend you go watch them all because they're hilarious.
Yes.
But no, a book trailer it used to be the exclusive realm of the super big. But then all this awesome video editing software hit our computers, and now it is the exclusive era of anyone who wants to try and fiddle around for the next 2-3 weeks and try and figure out how to do a video. They run the gambit from really awesome to really bad. And when I say that, I mean some of these have high production values. They got actors. There is real directors and lighting and makeup and all that kind of stuff. And I have a friend, Cole Gibson. She's got a great trailer out there, and she went nuts with it. They had actors as ninjas, and it's a great trailer and everything like that. There are some truly hideous ones out there that are done just bad late night TV infomercial type stuff. It's like a bad shaky video camera, and it's some guy is like, buy my book. It's just mine are actually I went with the History Channel model of so if you used to watch the History Channel back in the day, every show was here's some ancient painting. And we're going to give it movement by zooming across the painting to the corner of it, or something like that. So I took a ton of images, Jen's great art, my books, stuff from it, other shots that I got of the important areas. And so it's nothing more than a montage of pictures going across with music and words and stuff like that, done in that History Channel style of, here's the airship sliding across the screen so it looks like it's flying. And you keep going with that, and now I've got one for each of my books and for each of my short stories. And for me, I know a little bit about editing and stuff like that, so it was a little bit easier for me to do. But to be honest, watch a ton of YouTube videos, and anybody else can do what I just did.
Real short, and then I'm going to turn right over to Kathleen. I mentioned in the last episode as someone to look at for publicity at book signings, Claire Applewhite. Claire has also done her own book trailers, and she does the music for it herself.
Yeah, she writes her own music, which is
She
amazing.
writes her own music.
Sweet.
So one, know your talent, but two, look her up,
Yeah.
and you can get some ideas about some different ways of doing book trailers.
And there are ways to get music legally.
Yeah, I get mine
cost
straight
much.
off YouTube, so 30 other videos that you're watching that day have the exact same music that I do, but it works and it's great, and I actually think the music of some of them are really good.
Yep. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that at the awards at WisCon, a woman made a book trailer for the book that was winning an award, and it was it was images and it was text, kind of summarizing points of the book, and it was music, and it was riveting.
Beautiful.
I think music's important. So
Definitely.
my Clockwork Heart short story has this beautiful love tone that goes through it that literally melts my heart when I watch this stupid 30-second video.
So
You know,
yeah, like,
and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to invoke that in the person who's watching it too. So.
and I brought that up because I want people to know that, like, if you could make a PowerPoint presentation, you can probably do the book trailer
Yes.
thing too.
Seriously.
Like, if you can type text, and if you can
Have some pictures.
find
Yeah.
images, and if you can find music, then you have a book trailer that is waiting to be made.
Ta-da! So, I guess my other question would be with regard to book trailers. Is there a particular point in your book selling career or point at which they are best utilized? Are they like a
Just before it comes out.
Yeah, launch of the book.
Before-
Yeah, you're going to want it before the launch of the book because it's probably number 3 way that people are going to like know about your book.
And you want to advertise it a lot and drive
Yes.
a lot of people to your YouTube trailer.
Wait, hold on.
YouTube.
Hold on. You said the number 3-way, which suggests there is a 1 and a 2 and potentially a 4 and a 5. Please list.
Yeah. First would be the ads that I was talking about earlier, and then would be like or I guess first would be like social media, talking about it on Twitter and stuff like that.
That's one.
Second would probably be like ads and buying, ads in different places and stuff like that. Third, I'd say get something on YouTube because YouTube's one of the biggest search engines out there.
And is there a 4 and a 5?
Oh yeah,
Well,
there's
you-
4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12.
Your book trailer can be also your social media ad.
oh
Yes.
Yes, and also, like one thing also to keep in mind is that yes, you definitely want to make sure that it's out there and available before, like right before the book launch. But like after the fact, definitely don't take it down
Oh, no.
because there's always that opportunity of somebody just typing in book trailers and coming across what you have. The main thing that you really want to make sure that you're doing when it comes to book trailers, when it comes to pretty much all of this stuff, is have some form of marketing that is keyed into that specific type of venue.
Right.
So if you like for YouTube, you got a book trailer. For Facebook, you have you have the ads. For Twitter, you have the conversations that you're having about it. For Tumblr, you have artwork. For Instagram, you have artwork, and you also have like say pictures of the bookstore where you're going to be. Don't be when it comes to marketing, one size does not fit all.
No.
It does not. You're doing just enough by having your Facebook page, your author page, linked to your Twitter account. That's as much as I would recommend, and even that is still kind of iffy.
Just real quick, I'm going to go back to Kathleen's question on publicity. Should she hire a publicity person? Now we're going to talk about book trailers. There are companies out there that will sell you a book trailer. I'm not going to say anything bad about them, but it goes back to the same questions I said to Kathleen earlier about publicity. 1, what is your energy level? 2, what is your time like? And 3, what is your budget like? And I should say with that too is what is your learning curve? How willing are you to put yourself out there and to learn the tricks of a trade versus having to rely on somebody? And only you, the listener, and you in the room can answer that for yourselves. I can't. Go ahead.
Well, as Fedora said earlier, it's about. Crap, I forgot what I was going to say.
I don't know.
I don't either. Okay, you're going to have to come back to me because I totally lost my thought.
Okay, go for it.
Well, here is a tried and true way for people who blog or have Facebook or whatever, a blog tour, and that is to do a contest. And the contest can be varied, and the more creative, I think, the better. And certainly you can give away a book, but you don't have to. It could be monetary prize. It could be any kind of prize. But the more creative you can be with it probably is better. One that will create interest. Once again, dog in the book, right? Have a cutest dog contest, or the ugliest dog contest, or the biggest or the littlest, or whatever kind of dog contest you want, and you're going to get a lot of entries. And let's hope that your reply to them gets some kind of interest, as well, of course, as the prizes that you give out. So the contest is a way certainly to drive more traffic to you, And hopefully you'll be able to get some more people's emails for email blast, your newsletter, or whatever you're doing in that department.
One of the caveats that schools have thought on that is that you should do something meaningful to your book, because I remember, several years ago when the Kindles hit the market, the biggest thing in the world was to give away a Kindle.
Yeah.
But that led to a ton of people who would literally sign up for your Kindle, and then once the giveaway was over, they would unsubscribe from your stuff because they
Well,
weren't.
that's a danger anyway.
No, I know, but that was the point. They weren't there for you. They were there for the prize. And so if the prize is related to your book in some way, or related to you, or related to your author, or related in some way, you're more likely to be aiming at fans or at general readers, as opposed to somebody looking for a free iPod that week, or iPad. iPods are so old now.
A romance writer that I know had a contest for the ideal man, and people were supposed to send in drawings or pictures of whoever would be the ideal man that would be the hero of her next book. And she got a lot of play on that.
I have a friend who goes around to schools right now, and every school visit is basically the kids crafting the next, character villain of his next story. That's what he does. He goes around to schools, and it's an exercise that he uses with, all of these different school kids. But it's a way of, interacting, getting the readership out there, getting everyone excited for the next book, and then also giving fans some input.
And I've got two dovetails now to that. I only have one earlier. Going back, why did my mind just go blank?
Gateway Gun.
Yeah, no, that's it. The Wizard Detective. Come
Harry
on.
Dresden?
Harry Dresden, author, please.
Jim Butcher.
Thank you. Gosh, I'm sorry, Jim, and everybody. Yes, I do know who he is. My mind is mush. But he talked about at a writers' conference, at a writers' event, about how he came up with his other series. And he asked his readership, give me two things that are not related, and I will write a story about it. Well, he was originally going to give away the story, but then he was like, "Oh, this is too good." He was given Roman legions, and he was given Pokemon, and out of that came his Lost Roman Legion series.
Codex of Alexandria?
Yeah, something like that. Codex of something.
Codex
Sidebar.
Valera?
Yeah.
Ilaria. Yeah.
Ilaria. What I was going to say is, if you're going to blog, if you're going to do newsletters, if you're going to post on any social media, one of the things you want to do is also give relevant content, as we've all been saying, towards your books. So I'm going to let the cat out just a little bit of what I'm working on. Just enough. Not much, because I don't want to take away the story. But it deals with modern human slavery. So guess what one of the things I'm going to be posting as it gets closer to being published is information about being aware of modern human slavery. And be it the sex trade, be it the human slavery as far as picking fruit, the forced migrant workers and so forth. So I'm leaving that there.
Okay, what's so funny?
I was like, when you were saying about modern human slavery, I was like, were you just going to start giving people chapters of Roots?
No. No.
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about sex trafficking.
No. And the book itself does not deal itself with sex trafficking. But that's part of human trafficking. So anyway, sorry, suddenly everyone's like, I don't know how to follow that.
Well,
but I'm just saying that's some content,
but it's content that's relevant to what you're producing. So yeah.
Can I ask a semi-related question, because it is only semi-related?
Sure.
To publicity, not the other stuff.
Thank you. That was as far as I wanted to go with that. Go ahead.
I know authors now who are on Patreon.
Oh yeah.
So one of the things that they do for their Patreon subscribers is, depending on the level, I think, I need to look into this.
Yes.
Depending on the level, their subscribers get free content of some sort, which the author decides.
Well, it's not so much free. It's subscribed. It's content, but you're subscribing to for a price.
Let me say they get bonus features.
There you go.
There you go. I like
There you
that
go.
idea.
The subscribers get bonus features. They get sneak peeks. They get cool stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, does that count as a sort of publicity? If you
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
but we don't know how it's going to work yet. So this is an offshoot of what happened a few years ago when Kickstarter became the newest thing on the block, and everybody was Kickstartering their novels. Now we have this new service where you can sign up, and you're basically putting it out there that you are a creator of content, and you need help creating the content, so people subscribe to become your patron, and they are giving you money so you can continue the artwork. If this is a system that is going to be successful, awesome. I know George and I both have a Facebook friend who's doing this, and I actually have several writer friends who are doing this. I don't yet know if it's a success. I don't yet know if you can actually get a patron to kind of help you overcome some of the costs of creating this stuff. However, if it's there, it could be a model to help people who, it's hard to say this, but a lot of, especially publishing in years ago, over a decade now, was really the exclusion of wealthier people.
Yeah.
Because you had to do print runs of your books. To get a book published was going to cost thousands of dollars. So if you didn't have a publisher, you had to have money of some kind. And now with some of the things that are coming up with, like, this service and some of the other things, and people trying to, like, Kickstarter or GoFundMe. Indiegogo, thanks, that's the other one I was trying to remember. These are different services you can use to try and fund the publishing of your book or the publishing of your work, or to maybe, you can only have a part-time job instead of a full-time job, and stuff like that. So if this is going to work, then I think it'd be cool. It might undo some of the arts funding that we, don't have as much of now, or some of the other types of grants that people used to go after, because that used to be the big one.
Right.
That was similar to this. You'd go after some grant, and somebody would give you a grant to, say, write the book, or to go on a publicity tour or something like that. That used to be the really big way of doing this. Now we have these newer ways, which are similar. So I'm hoping the model stays the same, that you can get money to help you do some of these projects. But as much as I want to say, yes, run off, get your accounts set up, and start trying to push out to have people fund you, I just can't say that I haven't seen it work yet. I know a lot of people who are trying it, but I haven't seen a ton of success stories come out of it. Now, there were some successful, like, Kickstarter and Indiegogo campaigns. There were some famous movies that got made out of it that way. Several books got published that way. But then there was a backlash that hit with, well, I'm paying for my own self-publishing, my own printing costs here. Why can't you? And that became a real thing that kind of killed the Kickstarter self-funding thing.
Wow.
And that became kind of a backlash of, like, why should I support you when I'm sitting here trying to get my stuff out? And so I haven't seen one yet for Patron or Patron or whatever it is, but I'm waiting to see if there's going to be one.
With that, I'm going to say real fast, somebody who wishes they could have been here today is not, but he's been on our show a few times. Bob Baker has talked about
Patreon.
My suggestion is go to YouTube, look him up, Bob Baker. He's got a bunch of videos, and I believe some of his videos do talk about it, to know more information and what his experience has been with it so far.
I'm going to just throw out a couple of examples, because Brad did say that we do have friends that that have gone the Patreon route. One of them is a friend of mine named Blake Northcott. She's a Canadian writer who has basically not only gotten a small amount of success with her Patreon, but she's also gotten 3 incredibly successful Kickstarter campaigns for her three novels, her Arena Mode trilogy. And the main thing that she was doing is with her Patreon page, she is consistent with getting everything out in a timely fashion.
Yeah.
You know when everything is going to be put out. You know that you're going to be getting a decent amount of content, and she is constantly interacting with her readers and everything, with her fans, and she's gotten a decent amount of success with that. With the Kickstarter one, what she did that was so brilliant was that she was able to use her connections in the comic book industry to basically set up, to commission different artists to put together artwork based on her characters. And that artwork was going to go in the back of the book. So if she was able to raise this amount of money, then she can get this Marvel artist to create a splash page and everything for one of her characters.
Wow.
And she pulled it off. Like, all 3 of her books have brought in, I believe, and Blake, if you're listening, let me know if I'm wrong, but I believe all 3 of the books have brought in $30,000 each.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not something to sneeze at.
Yeah.
Fedora.
Well, this is something entirely different. Or back to something earlier that we talked about, which was your website and something that you should prepare now, long before you get published at all, and that is a press kit.
Mm-hmm.
Your press kit should include a bio of you in 50 words and 100 words, at least, and 300 words too. Somebody might want a long one. And it should include log lines and brief descriptions, that is back blurred kind of things, for your books. It should include some of your official photographs, 2 or 3. One hopes that you have 2 or 3 in which you look good and right for the part. And of course, other information about your publishers, links to your Amazon site, all that kind of stuff as well. So your press kit page is a very important page, and all of that stuff then will be ready because you're going to need it. Make sure your pictures are in 300 dpi.
Yep. I would also highly recommend having a PDF that's downloadable on your press kit page with all that material in one PDF. So that somebody like me at St. Louis Writers Guild or something like that needs all that press information, I don't have to copy and paste it or do anything crazy like that. I just click the PDF, download it straight to my computer, and we're all done.
Nice. Going back to something Kathleen started us off this session with completely, best thing to do, doesn't matter if you're going to hire a publicity person or not with this answer. Go on to anybody who does book publicities, as a living, and see what they offer. And you can get a good checklist, if you will, of what Fedora and Brad were talking about. With that,
Because they're going to have a whole questionnaire for you to fill out, and you're going to have to supply all this stuff anyway, so you may as well do it now.
right. Go ahead, Kathleen.
I was going to ask, where do you even find out about all these things? Like, because I can Google something and not find it, and it's definitely on the internet. So, like, do you guys have resources? Like,
One of my favorite is Writer's Digest, and not to go straight to Writer's Digest site, but to Google Writer's Digest and what do I need in a press kit.
Yeah.
Because probably somebody has written an article for Writer's Digest that says, what do I need in my press kit? And boom, that's probably going to come up. There are a bunch of other sites that I'll also,
The writer, poets, and writers.
the writer and stuff like that. But then I also just follow a bunch of blogs like Jane Friedman, Chuck Sambucino when he was still with doing all this stuff with Writer's Digest and stuff like that.
J.A. Conrath.
Jay Conrath, yeah. Scott Cohen's
he
a
is
big
a
for
devil on-
self-publishing.
Yeah.
On
Chuck
marketing.
Wendig.
Chuck Wendig. Heck, even some of the other big authors you can kind of like keep an eye on. But yeah,
But you can these days, the search engines, you can put a whole string of words out there that are keywords, and it will, give you the ones you want most at the top. It's a wonderful thing. Used to not be that way.
True.
If you don't find it in one search engine, I would try a different search engine.
Sure.
Of course, everybody's saying favorite search engine starts with a G, so yeah. And to be honest, right now, that's where you want to be popping up at the most because, once again, everybody's favorite search engine right now is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smiggle.
So, is there any area of
Yes.
publicity, any area of book marketing that we haven't talked about the last 2 hours that we really need to talk about in the next 5 minutes?
so the only other one that I would really throw out is know your days of the week.
Yes.
And the reason I say that is not that we need to know when it's Thor's Day or when it's Odin's Day. We need to know what day is book release day. So every Tuesday is book release day. That means that the entire internet goes book nuts on Tuesdays. There's a reason for that, because all the new stuff just got pumped out. So if your book is coming out and you want to advertise it, Tuesday's a really good day to do it. If you want to advertise your book just in general, Tuesday may not be the best day to do it because everyone's looking at all the new stuff and they don't want to see your old stuff. So there's a lovely thing called Friday, which is Friday Reads or a ton of other different topics like that. But on Friday, everybody goes on Twitter and stuff like that and says what they're going to be reading that weekend. And so a bunch of the like agencies and stuff like this, they'll do like what everybody in their office is reading that week and stuff like that. So you can kind of get a feel for the ebb and flow of how the industry tends to work. And once you know those kinds of things, you're going to be better at aiming your marketing on those kinds of days. There's like lit chats on certain days, like middle grade lit chats on certain days, YA lit chats on a certain day. If you're talking about mysteries or romance, all of these things have different times of the week when the authors or readers or people like that, the community, gets together, usually on Twitter or some of the other sites, and talks about the industry, talks about what's going on, talks about the latest book, talks about something cool like that. And those are great conversations to join in. Not to pimp your book. Do not do that. Nobody in middle grade lit chat wants to hear about your book. What they want to hear is your insights on the industry, your story, what you're doing in middle grade right now, or what, and then just join in on the topic that's being talked about. That can be a really great way not only to network, but then also to get your name out there. As we all know, anyone can search a hashtag.
And we'll go ahead. Last thought.
Okay, just a little plug actually for Sisters in Crime, because if you belong to an organization like Sisters in Crime, you often get a page on their website, as our local chapter gives you a page for your stuff on the website, and the nationals will also run your book cover across at certain times of the year. You get it for a couple of weeks.
That's a big one, the national organizations. Because
Exactly.
I'm a member of SCBWI, and they just did a whole thing this year where I had a page on the website where I got to promote all my books and push them up. And then they even went through, and the people who got the most comments and the most likes and everything, they won awards.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was a whole crazy thing, and they're probably going to keep up with it. So I'm a huge fan of joining organizations.
And you're already paying for it, so
Yep.
make sure you get those services.
Yeah, definitely, you want to get involved with that kind of stuff.
And on that note, thank you for listening to this week's topic and last week's topic. Tune in next week for yet another interesting topic in the writing industry. Thank you for listening.
Did you know that Right Pack Radio has an international audience? How would you like to reach that audience in regards to your books, your book services, your author services, or more? Go to www.windingtrailsmedia.com and look under advertising for more information. If you don't have a script, that's not a problem. We will be happy to work with you. Once again, go to www.windingtrailsmedia.com for more information.
The new theme songs for Right Pack Radio were written and performed by Meredith Tate. All copyrights remain with her. Writers, agents, and publishers, for the first time since the Gutenberg Press, find themselves lost in a maze of mystery as technology alters the shape of the publishing industry. Searching for Answers is a group of writers throwing pop culture, writing, and publishing into a crucible of clarity, passion, and humor. This group is the Right Pack.
Welcome back to Right Pack Radio. This is your host and producer, David Allen Lucas, author of Crazy Things, president of St. Louis Writers Guild, president of Winding Trails Media. And today we're going to continue on to the previous topic. So let's go around the table again. We have some minor changes, and then we'll pick up and talk about what we're talking about.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Kayembe. I write fantasy and spec fic, and I write romance under the pen name Kaseka and Vita. I have a story out in Nightmare Magazine right now, and you can find me on Twitter.
Okay.
My name is Chanel A. Chan. I write. I write.
She writes.
I like that.
That makes you a writer.
That's good.
There we
like
go.
it.
I like it.
Yay! Brad?
I wish I thought of that. I'm Brad Cook, and I write. Yeah, I am Brad R. Cook. I write steampunk and all kinds of fun things like that. You can check out the Iron Chronicles, or you can check out A Clockwork Heart, or you can check out the Dragon Slayer. And there's a couple more coming down the pipe that you'll be able to get in the next few weeks, probably. So cool. Check them all out at bradarcook.com.
I'm Melanie Lucas. I am hopefully writing a fantasy novel by this point in time.
Sorry, and I'm coughing here. My bad. What?
Fedora Amos, I write Victorian Whodunits like Jack the Ripper in St. Louis and Mayhem at Buffalo Bill's Wild West, which is now out in a large print edition.
Yay.
I'm just proud of that today for somebody. And I'm president of Greater St. Louis Mystery and Crime.
And I apologize to everybody. I just swallowed something and went down the wrong pipe.
And I'm George Soroy. I write science fiction for the young adult reader. My books Excelsior, Ever Upward, Part 2 of the Excelsior Journey, and the 5-part serial from Parts Unknown will all be available this summer. I am also an audiobook narrator. My book, my narration of Argentum by Debbie Mamber-Kupfer is currently available on Amazon, as is the audiobook for Rumpelpimple by Suzanne DeWitt Hall. And I am also the president of the Missouri Writers Guild.
I like that last title, Rumple Pimple. Interesting.
It's a really cute story. Yeah,
Okay.
it was a lot of fun to do.
And kind of sound TV-ized or Hollywoodized. In the last episode of Right Pack Radio. Now, last episode we talked about how to market your book, both in a bookstore and out of a bookstore. After we finished, the group decided, hey, we need to continue this conversation. So guess what? This is how to market your bookstore part 2, or how to market your book, not bookstore, book part 2. And with that, Kathleen, off mic, you had a great question you were going to ask, so we're going to start off with that question. That was about publicity.
Yes, and I'm going to preface the question with why I asked it. One of the things that people are becoming more aware of as a culture, not just in the groups that are directly affected by it and know they are, is people's able-bodiedness and neurotypicalness, for lack of better words. So, for your neurotypical able-bodied person, doing a lot of publicity is something you can more easily juggle with the writing that you need to do with your day job, with your self-care, with your life, than for those of us who are not as able-bodied or not as neurotypical. I am not neurotypical. And some of the things that Brad and Fedora were saying that they do every week for publicity for their work are things that make me exhausted even thinking about it. Like, I was sitting here wondering how they don't clone themselves or use time turners, because I would need that. And also,
Time Turner. Oh, that'd be so helpful.
I would need that, and I would need, like, every turn or two, I would need to go take an 8-hour nap. And by nap, I mean, well, it's still the same day. So I would need to go sleep for 8 hours. So that level of publicity that is so necessary for writers to do now is not possible for someone like me. So what do I do in that situation? What do people like me who just do not have the energy to do all that do so that they can still be writing and still be maintaining a day job? Do I need to hire a publicist? How do I go about this?
I would like to just add in, because sometimes even if you do have the energy, you're not necessarily the only person or the best person to do something. I mentioned briefly last time, he's written a book that he thinks that the young adult reader, the 18-year-old, the 15-year-old even would love. But I don't think he's going to do a very good job convincing that 15-year-old or that 16-year-old to read his book. Even if he does all this thing, he would have to get creative and go about it sideways, giving interviews, Twitter, all that. I'm not sure if it would work for him because of who he is and who he's going after audience-wise.
Brad?
Yeah, so to kind of, I'll answer your question in just a second, but first I'd like to throw out that I actually feel the exact same way. So you're looking at me as doing all this amazing publicity work, and yet I still look at the people that are bigger than me, and when I say that, I'm thinking of some of the like really big indie authors or even some of the bigger guys, and I'm amazed at what they do, and they're doing 1,000 times more than I am. So I totally get that sense of like, I can't do what you do. Notion, or I don't feel like I have that in me, because I also feel that way. I look at some of the things that like Scott Cohen, or even like Neil Gaiman.